Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lock On Podcast, episode number 3. I actually managed to get that name right this time. Obviously, surprisingly, not a ton of news right now. Obviously, a few things here or there, but I thought we'd take episode 3 and kind of just talk about the state of the year so far and what's coming. It's definitely a unique year, obviously, with COVID going on and games being delayed. Usually, I would say on a normal year, personally for me, I take a look at Madden. Whenever Madden launches, that really kicks off gaming season. It usually launches in early August, mid-August, and then it's just a flow through September. But September is a little slower this year. We'll get into that. Obviously, a lot of delays with COVID, but we're going to start out backtracking before we look to what's still coming this year. We're going to be talking about what's really caught our eye for Game of the Year so far this year. Lot of great games. Obviously, the tail end of console generation is usually pretty good for Game of the Years, especially single player games. So let's just jump right into it. Sean, we're going to start with you. What if you had to pick one? And for starters, we're just one game right now off the top of your head. What is it for you, Game of the Year that you've played so far, and why?
The Last of Us Part 2. Because I just think it's a masterpiece. I think the story is excellent. I think the gameplay is excellent. It's visually stunning. When it came out, I played through it 3 times, like in 2 weeks. I just loved the story. I love the risk they took. I love that they were able. It's very obvious what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to hate this person and come to like this person, and that person's Abby. And some people it didn't work on, but it worked 100% on me. By the end of it, I was totally on board with Abby. And I just think the game's just, it's a masterpiece. I think it's Naughty Dog's best game.
Yeah. And Naughty Dog really, I always feel the start of a generation and the tail end of a generation, Naughty Dog hits it out of the park almost every time. We saw this last on the PS3 with Uncharted 3 near the end of it, completely masterclass. And they just keep, and The Last of Us, and they just keep stepping their game up. It feels like. Now for Tim, how about for you? What are you thinking for your Game of the Year so far?
There's a couple highly anticipated things for me that have yet to come out, but so far I'm really leaning towards Deep Rock Galactic.
Yeah.
My brother and one of our mutual friends and I were playing that for a while. I think it is just one of the most well-paced co-op experiences I've ever played. For those of you who don't know, it's a mining shooter kind of combo game where you're playing as this team of dwarves that each have unique abilities, and you're mining out this asteroid planet in some other galaxy. And there's these bug creatures that occasionally just swarm you. So you go from this like cavern dungeon crawling kind of experience, crawling through the dark looking for gemstones, and then all of a sudden it turns into this mad dash for your life, desperately killing all these bugs that are crawling out of everywhere, and they're exploding and popping off and shooting venom. And I think I had some of the most fun I've had this year was definitely in that experience. And it's a game I expect I'm going to be playing a lot longer than any other game that came out.
Now, would you say that you're still, would you enjoy it if it wasn't? I know a lot of people with their Game of the Years, especially me, I know this 100%. I get a little clouded with how good a game is based on if I'm enjoying it with my friends. Would you still say that would hold up if you were playing alone?
I have played alone some, and honestly, the experience can feel a little too claustrophobic and a little too intense for me if I don't have people I'm talking with, which I guess is probably what they were going for, right? There is a little robot that is kind of a multi-tool companion that goes with you when you're a single player to make up for the fact you're missing the other character's ability, so it's not as bad as it could be. But no, I think you're definitely right. It is a game that was designed to be played in a co-op experience. So if you play the game on its own terms, then I think it's a very different experience than they allow for single player, but it definitely is meant to be played co-op.
Yeah, and that's definitely what you see with a lot of games that kind of rely on that multiplayer aspect of it. Is they are obviously way more enjoyable. For me, it was tough. For me, it's still going to be Doom Eternal. I just
Okay.
love what they've done to update Doom, bring it into this new generation, and I absolutely love how crisp controls are. It's just one of those games that you don't need. We live in such an age now with games, it's very story based, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love a good story. With Doom, you jump in, you know what you're getting, and they've actually been able to craft a really good story, which obviously Doom was never known for. But I like what they've done with it, and I'm hoping, obviously, since the Microsoft acquisition, I hope more money's put into whatever the next game is, or whatever DLC's next for that game. Because wow, is it just a fantastic shooter? And I recommend anybody who hasn't even played, the first one to go out, because the first one is still an incredible experience as well. But
That's interesting.
yeah, getting back into kind of the year that we've had is I went through the list of games, and it's so weird because you look at September, you look at your big hitters that have come out this year. Within I call it the gaming time of year, which is what I consider between mid-August to start of December is usually when all the big hitters come. And there hasn't honestly been too many that have really hit in that kind of range. You had obviously Ghost of Tsushima, which reviewed crazy well, that came out in July. That was obviously, I think it did really well with sales. I think if it came out at any other time in the year, I don't think it would have done as well. But I think a lot of game developers don't really realize, or publishers, I should say, that summer, I feel like summer is a really good spot to put out a game. Yes, I know everyone's outside, and I know the circumstances that everyone's in right now, but getting a big hit in summer, I feel like is so much easier than dumping it into, your September, your October that you see. And then obviously your biggest game that I think we all can agree on would be Avengers that's come out. Sean, opinion on Avengers, quick.
I didn't like it. I beat the campaign. The campaign was fine, but I just feel like that game would have been better suited as just being a co-op, be done with the game. And then if you want to replay the game again, like Halo's campaign, if you want to replay it with harder modifiers or something like that, that'd be cool. But making this game a game as a service was a huge mistake to me. I don't think this game's going to last. I find it to be pretty underwhelming. 90% of the gameplay is fighting a bunch of dudes until they're all done, and then you go on an elevator, go down, and fight a bunch more dudes. And it's real repetitive. I was repetitive isn't necessarily a bad thing, because most gameplay in video games is repetitive. That's just, but I didn't feel like the loop here. It made me notice the repetition more. So I was very underwhelmed with Avengers. To me, the best game that I've played this fall is Tony Hawk.
And you know what? I was literally about to bring that up. I felt it was honestly between that and Doom for me, because, and I kind of went with Doom just because they're not technically both fresh IPs, but it wasn't just a remake of something. But I was totally impressed with Tony Hawk. Honestly, everyone can crap on Activision all they want. The one thing that I feel like Activision has done flawlessly is done these remakes and remasters with Spyro, Crash, Tony Hawk, getting all of their old franchises and giving them that 21st century kind of, look to them, feel. And I feel like they nailed it with Tony Hawk. I guess
Tony Hawk's great.
Moving on from there, obviously that
Tony Hawk's fantastic.
Tony Hawk came out in September. Obviously, I think we're all in agreement when it comes to games that we're looking forward to, is other than, I would say, Last of Us 2, maybe Ghost of Tsushima to an extent, and Doom. The big hitters we're all expecting aren't even out yet. Like, it's wide open for Game of the Year. There's so many games between this, which is October, the start of October till December, is crazy. Now, I'm just going to kind of run down the list, and you guys just kind of tell me your reactions and kind of what you're expecting. We're going to start out with one that's already out. And even if you haven't played it, maybe you've seen gameplay of it, I just kind of want to get you guys' perspective on it. We're going to start with Star Wars Squadrons. I'm actually reviewing it, so I don't want to give too much away about how I will say I am enjoying it, and I'm actually shocked for a $40 game that EA has put this much kind of time into it. Have any of you guys kind of looked at gameplay or watched videos on it at all?
I played it, and I stopped playing it. I was hoping the Star Wars license would get me through it, but I just don't like flight games.
And that's totally fair.
It's just not my genre. Like, I hate having to track I'm in a dogfight and they fly over my head and I have to turn around and try to get them. But then by the time I turn around, they fly over my head again. I was just like, I'm done. I turned it off.
I definitely feel, and the thing that really bugs me that I can't do right now is I just feel like this game would be VR. I can't even imagine. I really want to try it in VR. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But for me, did you at least get the feel of, do you think they hit the Star Wars feel to the game fairly well?
I mean, I didn't play it that long. I was still on the first mission before I got frustrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're doing a good job with it. It feels, I mean, like I said, I haven't put any time into it, but from what I played, it feels like way more than a $40 game. That whole thing just seems very perplexing to me.
And it's weird because it's EA. I think that's what's throwing a lot of people off. We don't expect that from EA. Tim, have you kind of looked into the game at all, or watched any of it?
I haven't bought it yet, because I just bought a bunch of stuff last month. But I'm trying to budget myself so I can get both Call of Duty and Cyberpunk. But I like flights games a lot. Ace Combat 7 is an incredible game. It gets very difficult, and the thing is, when I play, I haven't. I'm not as excited for this as I might be otherwise, because I could tell by the marketing and by the way they're presenting it that it wasn't going to be they weren't going to go for anything like simulation. It was going to be a fun fantasy.
And that's kind of what I'm gonna. You'll read in my review is that's what I kind of pointed out is, obviously with the Star Wars license, I don't think you can go full sim just because there's too many. It's too family friendly. They need to make it accessible, and I think they honestly hit a really good. I'm about halfway through the campaign, and I feel like they've hit a really good mark. If you want to go a little more simulation, you can turn off all the assists. Everything is in front of you, and that's what I love about it. All of your controls, everything you need to know is right in front of you, and it's fairly easy to read. But if you want to go a little more arcadey, you can turn on all the assists, you can turn on your HUD, so you actually know, and it does make sense in a way, because obviously with their helmets, I would assume with Star Wars, you can probably get away with, oh, this is all showing up in a helmet to kind of make it canonized a little bit. But no, I'm fairly surprised, especially like I said before, at the price. So we're gonna move on. Kind of scrolling down the list.
Just one more thing on that. It is interesting. I typically, with car games, I like arcadey, burnout style, smashing and crashing, like not Forza at all. But with airplane games, I tend to like the opposite. I like them real serious simulation. I like having to watch my altitude and all that stuff.
Yeah, and definitely with the two genres between simulation and arcadey, perfect example I would say with that is Forza, kind of what they've done with their model. Obviously, if you're hardcore into like customized cars, cars, you want to feel realistic, you go with the Motorsport series. And then if you want a little more arcadey option, you go with the Horizon series. So kind of moving on, now we're into the games that obviously haven't released yet. You've still got, in October, you've still got your big hitters for sports games. Obviously, FIFA is going to sell an absolute boatload. NHL usually does fairly well. And again, if I miss a game that, is big to you, I apologize. I'm just trying to narrow it down to the big AAA games that people are excited for. So I would say
once John Madden comes out of his hole and sees his shadow saying there's going to be 3 more months of video games, it's kind of a open season.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say that the only other than the sports games, I would say the only other big AAA game in October is Watch Dogs Legion. Okay. Sean, I'll ask you kind of, there's obviously been a lot of previewing that's kind of come out over the last week. What are your thoughts on kind of where they're going with the Watch Dogs?
It's my most anticipated game, hands down. Has been since they announced it. I love the idea of playing as anyone. I am going to go permadeath on it when I play. I know that they said that they took that feature's still in there, but they expanded it because they didn't want anybody to get locked out of playing the game if all of the characters died. But I'm good enough at video games that I think I can manage to at least keep one person alive so that I have someone, always someone to go. But I like that idea of building a character, having them die, and then being like, okay, well, I got to carry on with somebody else. That was one of the things that sold me on that idea when it first announced. So yeah, I'm super, super excited for Watch Dogs. I've liked this series from day one, but this one just looks so intriguing to me.
And I feel like with Watch Dogs I feel like this third game is going to be such a pinnacle for them, because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the general consensus around Watch Dogs, starting with Watch Dogs 1 and 2, is it just felt too much, a little bit like you add hacking into it. It felt a little bit too much like GTA, like your generic kind of more open world games, especially with 1. 2, they've obviously stepped up. And I think with 3, they're going to find that spot that Watch Dogs is really going to thrive. And everyone's concerned about next-gen games and next-gen graphics, next-gen systems. And I feel like this Watch Dogs game, with this system of, you can see someone on the street and you might scan them and they're going to know someone that you've recruited and how have you recruited them, and you can play as anybody. I feel like, along with the very underrated and undervalued Nemesis system from the Shadow of Mordor, I feel like that's going to be the next-gen thing that's not going to feel next-gen, but should be on everyone's radar as a next-gen experience.
Which is funny because it's coming at the end of this generation, and it was one of those things where I was like, this is what I've been looking forward to, like a new, different kind of gameplay mechanic that I have never experienced before, Like, and it's not like State of Decay, nothing against State of Decay, but when you play the character, you die, you start a new character. This is like that to the nth degree. It feels truly innovative. That's why I'm super stoked about it.
Yeah, and just reading the previews and stuff, it's crazy that it's not getting as much. It doesn't feel to me like the game's going to get that much attention, and I hope it does.
It's not.
I just feel like Ubisoft missed such a hard mark with market this for your next generation consoles. I feel like I've seen no marketing around this for the Series X and PS5. This should have been, in my opinion, a next-gen launch game for Ubisoft.
Yeah, but sorry, I don't mean. I just want to say one thing. The problem I have is that they're releasing this like 2 weeks away from, not even, maybe 11 days out before Assassin's Creed.
October 29th is the date.
Yeah, so it's like 13, not even, almost 2 weeks to the day ahead of Assassin's Creed, which is clearly where their focus is. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like Watch Dogs, like Watch Dogs should, I would rather they delayed it into like February and push back Far Cry, just so that Watch Dogs has room to breathe.
I feel like
I'm excited, but I feel like very few people are.
I feel like we're getting, I don't know if you guys remember this. Do you remember when EA made the dumbest move that I've ever seen a company do when they decided to launch Titanfall 2?
Oh my gosh.
A week before Battlefield 1.
Freaking
Titanfall 2 was incredible. It was an incredible game.
Yeah,
and I feel like Ubisoft is just lining themselves up.
Titanfall 2 may very well be my game of the generation. To this day,
it's my number 3 now.
Yeah, I just feel like Ubisoft's shooting themselves in the foot here. Like, come on, guys. Like, why launch your, like, obviously I completely understand from a business point of view why they chose to launch Assassin's Creed. It's got name value. There are people out there, just like your Call of Duties, just like your Maddens, that go out and buy Assassin's Creed every single year the day of, and they're completely content with that's the only game they have. That's why. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's going to make a boatload of money. But I just feel like Watch Dogs is that perfect game to bring home and sell it as a next-gen system. Say, hey, this is going to only be done on next-gen. Look at all these improvements. Still have it on your Xbox Ones and your PS4s, but still show the features that can really push the next-gen systems.
Yeah. Yeah, oh man, that's sorry, you got me riled up with the
It's
Titanfall
okay.
thing.
It's the Titanfall thing. I know. I
But
remember. I still remember it really well. So just kind of
you know,
moving on.
I'm actually well, just so I want to comment on Watch Dogs real fast. I'm really excited for it in it from a different perspective. I'm not so excited for the play as anybody thing, but I was really frustrated with the area the map design in Titanfall in not Titanfall in Watch Dogs 2 because I felt like the San Francisco Bay Area it makes sense from a thematic perspective. You know, you're dealing with technology and smartphones and stuff, but it was lots of big, wide open areas with nothing to interact with on the phone. Whereas I felt Watch Dogs 1, I actually felt like I was really hacking the city, and I was, there's this stealth car missions where you're hiding from cops and alleys and stuff. So I'm actually really excited to be back in a dense urban environment because I think that's where Watch Dogs needs to be because you need stoplights to mess with and you need lots of big crowds and stuff.
It's
And
a
I
very
don't
good
think
point.
it played nearly as well in 2 because you had parks. There were parks everywhere and these long bridges with nothing to do with the tech. You were just driving. It felt like a car game a lot of the time when it shouldn't have.
Yeah. No, that's
So
definitely a fair point.
I'm really excited about that aspect.
Location is obviously a big thing for Watch Dogs, and I think London is a perfect location for them to kind of jump into. So obviously that's probably the end of the big games from October. Kind of moving into the fun that is November, and where everyone's wallets probably going to be feeling a little bit lighter. We're going to talk about, I would say for all those big, car nuts out there, I would say your big car game for this year is going to be Dirt 5. I haven't done too much reading up on it. It looks good. Microsoft obviously wants to back it as something that is going to be a next-gen focused game. I've never really have either of you two kind of been into the Dirt series at all?
You can go first.
Not really. I played some of the WRC games,
Yeah.
the officially licensed WRC games. I haven't played much of the Dirt series.
Yeah.
I don't like racing games in general. I don't
Really?
So that just puts you out of it.
Yeah, I don't like racing games. I don't like games where you're in a vehicle the entire time you're playing.
I kind of got I guess we'll add that to the Star Wars Squadrons.
It's just not like compelling to me. And I hate driving in real life, and I hate it in video games. And I hate so just giving me the game where you do nothing but drive. Yeah, it's not my game.
So we're gonna move to November 10th, which is obviously the release date for the Xbox One. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, as we touched on, is obviously
Series X. You said Xbox.
Series X. Sorry, still Xbox.
I just don't want comments.
That's what I should. Xbox.
I just don't want the comments.
So Assassin's Creed Valhalla, as we touched on before, is the big Ubisoft game. It looks good. I have no complaints. Vikings. I mean, you know what you're getting. I feel like out of Assassin's Creed, I'm definitely in the camp. I've really enjoyed what they've done with the series the last couple of years. That break between, I believe it was what was the title of the Watch Dogs game in London?
Watch Dogs in London.
Legion?
Oh, sorry,
Legion.
Watch Dogs. Assassin's Creed in London. I'm getting my names all mixed up.
Syndicate.
Syndicate, yes.
Yeah.
Between that,
I like that
break,
game.
Between that break between Syndicate and Origins, I feel like did the series wonders, and I feel like they're they're really pushing into that RPG aspect compared to the hack and slash kind of stealth, which is fine for me. Like I'm not a huge Assassin's Creed nut, but when I play them, I enjoy them for what they are. If you're OCD with collectibles, don't play Assassin's Creed games. I know in a couple of them, I got really nuts with a couple, find the pages, find this, and it's pretty typical in Assassin's Creed.
I got the platinum in Odyssey.
Ooh,
what?
That's gonna be time consuming to find a few things.
That where the beard came from?
so one that I would say a game that's obviously off people's radar because it's a pretty basic game, but I feel like one that's going to see the upgrades from next gen and is having its NES expansion launch on the day of the Series X is Destiny 2. I think you're going to see a lot of people, especially with it launching on Game Pass. I think you're definitely going to see a lot of people kind of jump back in or try Destiny 2 again. I've kind of got back into it recently with obviously being quarantined. It was one of those games that I just didn't have time for, so I had a little more time. I played it and I enjoyed it. You know what you're getting with Destiny. I think this expansion is going to be really well for them, and I think it's a really smart idea to launch. It's free to play, it's on Game Pass, and the brand new expansion is free on Game Pass as well. You can't get much better than that in terms of value for people that are picking up this box and wanting something new to play. You've got your Assassin's Creed, and I would say your Destiny 2 are your two, Destiny 2 Beyond Light are your two big games that are, you know, considered new.
People like it. I'm on the record saying I don't like Destiny much at all, which is sad considering how much I love Halo.
You know what I'll say about that is there are a lot of people that don't like Destiny, and I will say this. It's so funny to watch all of these different game companies. You had your EA, you've got Ubisoft try to do the Destiny model. I would say the Division 2 came out fairly well. We're not even going to bother talking about Anthem because I think everybody knows everyone's opinion on that game. But I feel like Destiny 2, there's still no game out there like it, in my opinion. It's just really well done. The shooting mechanics are fantastic. It's Bungie. You kind of know what you're to expect from them.
They know how to execute a concept, that's for sure.
Exactly.
I like Destiny, but I don't see myself ever going back to it. I'm not a big. I even like. I love the Division 2. I just don't buy expansions. The only DLC I buy is if it's a From Software game.
So do you think
I don't?
Sorry. Do you think the Game Pass thing will make you kind of maybe try it if everything's already included?
Normally under normal circumstances, yes, I would be like, because you get that even on Xbox One X, which is what I have, and I'm not upgrading yet, but yes, normally, but it's coming out like with everything else that I'm going to be playing instead. Like 2 days later, Demon Souls comes out, and that's what I'm going to be playing.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean. Yeah. So.
For sure. So I'm just moving down the list for November 10th. Obviously, all your not backwards compat, because all of these games are listed as Series X. Like, obviously, they'll have enhancements. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Gears Tactics, Avengers, NBA 2K21, which actually the trailer yesterday kind of made me, I was kind of impressed. Obviously, it's your first trailer, but I was impressed by the graphic fidelity that hopefully is going to be in the game as well for NBA. But yeah, that's kind of it in terms of the Xbox launch titles. Obviously, the whole thing is that they don't really have anything new launching. But I don't think anyone's buying the Series X day one expecting that. I think the thing I'm most excited about is just seeing all of my older games kind of what they do on next-gen hardware. And then I'll be, obviously Halo was a huge blow to the Series X losing that, but I feel like it's better to stay in the cooker a little longer. But let's move on.
I bet they do something big on Game Pass on launch day, like maybe all of Bethesda's backlog is on gets added to Game Pass.
And there was a leak. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was an article that went up the other day saying that for the Xbox, it was listed that there was a Wolfenstein pack with all the Wolfenstein games included.
Yeah, it's Wolfenstein and Dishonored with the expansions and with all
Prey.
4 titles.
With Prey too, right?
Yeah, I think Prey is included with the Dishonored, and then the Death of the Outsider or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that is on PS4. It's just they're saying the upgrade might not come to PS5 if the next gen upgrade of that pack. But here's going to be the funny thing. The funny thing is when people who own the base version of those games, and then they get told they can't upgrade it because that's coming because that's the Control thing, that's the Spider-Man thing. It's like this upgrade doesn't get the boot, like gets the boost, but not the base model that you spent money on like X amount of years ago, whatever.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the PS5's launch day. Obviously, the big hitter there, Demon Souls, I would say is probably the one that most people are looking forward to.
Really? Not Miles? Not Miles Morales?
Miles, yes, to an extent, but I think why people are going to be more excited for Demon Souls is there's a little bit of nostalgia there. The Souls community in general, just people that enjoy Soulsy type games, has grown drastically, and I think,
True.
Correct me if I'm wrong in ballparking this. I genuinely think that probably 80% of the people that are playing Demon Souls are playing it for the first time this time around.
Oh yeah, I think so. The thing about Miles, though, the reason why I would say Demon Souls over Miles is because Demon Souls isn't on PS4.
Correct. You're right.
That's true. You know what? You're exactly right on that, Sean.
So I'm telling you, man, like when Sony fucking pulled that 180 and said these games are going to be cross-gen, a lot of the fucking hype for these games went away. Like you still have, most people are going to be like, oh, it looks better. Yeah, and it does look better. But Horizon and this getting announced as cross-gen games fucking just killed my interest in those games. Like, I'll play Miles Morales when I get around to it. Like, it's not a day one game for me because I don't like cross-gen games. Like I'll play next-gen games because third parties, I expect it. But first party, cross-gen, no interest. No interest. It becomes a I'll get to it later game. It doesn't matter who's making it.
Yeah, Sean, I definitely agree. You and I have talked about the cross generation thing.
Yeah.
And the fact, Demon Souls is going to be the only thing that's cross generation, that isn't cross generation rather, which does make it necessarily the most hypeable game, right? And I think that's kind of the only thing we agree on. It definitely completely kills hype when all the games are coming out on the console you already own.
Yeah.
It kills a lot of the excitement and a lot of the momentum.
Just to go on this dialogue, to me, what it is that it just tells me that there's inevitably compromises. Like, it can't be the fullest thing. Like, we all know that developers get better and better using consoles and they can do things. Obviously, The Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima would not have been available, wouldn't have been doable in the first year of the console. They just didn't have their experience with it. But knowing that they're not making the game limited based on having to cater to the lowest common denominator, that is what pulls me out of it. It's like knowing that, like, what decisions did they have, what gameplay choices did they have to curb because they had to also make it run on 7-year-old hardware.
I agree. Continue. Go.
Sorry,
go
I was going to say I respect that thought. That doesn't bother me so much. I just like getting excited for seeing what the first round of ideas with the new hardware look like.
But that's what I'm saying. By having to be, it's all it is. The most it can be is just a prettier version that loads faster and maybe has higher frame rate. That's the very most it can be. If it has to run on old hardware as well.
And I agree, obviously, with the older hardware thing. I'm sure it wasn't a hard decision for Sony on a business aspect because they probably looked at it and were like, oh, Spider-Man sold this many copies? Yeah, that's going on the PS4.
But obviously a new console.
Also, hundreds of thousands of people are out of the job, so they might not sell as many PS5s as they wanted to.
They're going to sell it. I'm not worried about it. They're going to sell it with PS5s, but obviously I think they probably looked at it and were like, we're not going to be able to make enough PS5s for the amount of people that want to play it. So we might as well put it in. 100%, I agree with you. It does compromise what the game could have looked like. And Spider-Man, to be fair, is already a gorgeous looking game. But how much better could it be if it was only on the PS5 will be the question that a lot of people will have to ask. But no, Spider-Man looks fantastic. Obviously, the whole, we won't get into it too much, but the whole, having the whole save thing is a little sketch to me. Just not being able to grab your PS4 save and just continue. I'm
so terrified that I'm not going to be able to do that with Bloodborne.
Yeah, and there's a lot of games out there that you see this and I don't want to get on a tangent about and I'm not going to touch it that much, but just we need to be wary and watch what Sony does in terms of, I think a lot of their decisions are being made on the fly, if I'm being honest. Kind of seeing what people are gauging and I think, especially with the backwards compatible thing, I don't think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Sony thought that there was going to be this much outcry in terms of backwards compatibility and backwards compatibility with your saves?
I think they expected backwards compatibility because I do think that was taken into account, and that's why they're testing the games, and they've been testing the games. It's just like you just found out Xbox is testing games too. They're still testing games. They don't even you can't even guarantee that every single one of their Xbox One games are going to carry over because they have to test it. But I don't think the save thing just seems like a complete fucking, like, what the fuck are you thinking? You know what I mean? Like my saves from my PS4, like, don't carry over to the next system. Like, that's fucking stupid. And that has me so paranoid because I'm like, I don't want to fuck it. Like, and they should know better because who the fuck wants to sit there and build a fucking Bloodborne character? Like, I have hundreds and hundreds of hours into that game. And I don't want to start from scratch.
And it's funny because I even remember even looking back as far as the Xbox 360 when they first introduced cloud saves, because I remember you having to take your hard drive out, your external, if you had one, bring it over to your buddy's house, plug it in so you could play whatever game again. And then this is Xbox 360 stuff we're talking here. When Microsoft introduced cloud saves, like, this should not be an issue.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. Sony, this is the thing with Sony, and this has always been the case. Like, they're good with software in terms of game development, but they're really a hardware company. They don't think about things the way Microsoft, which is a software company first, thinks about it, where you have like things as easy as changing your fucking PSN name. Like, I was lucky that I've had the same PSN name since day one. Like, it's very and I'm not embarrassed of it, you know what I mean? Like, but like, you know, like changing your name is something that's been instituted since the 360. You could change your name in the 360, and like, it took Sony this long, and then it might fuck up your trophies on certain games, and it's just like, what the fuck, man?
Some games aren't playable in multiplayer, like. Yeah.
Okay. I want to bring us back in here a little bit because I don't want to get too much on the tangent. I kind of want to stick on the game.
I hear you.
So let's keep bringing it back. So obviously we're sitting in November still. You've got your basics that are coming out with the obviously Astro's Playroom, which comes with every PS5. Godfall, which it's so weird because I feel like it was the first PS5 game introduced, and I feel like there's no hype around it whatsoever. I haven't really looked into it that much. It's muted
for sure.
Yeah. But again, I would say your other one that's PS4, PS5 would be obviously Spider-Man. And then the last one that's a PS5 exclusive is Sackboy, which I think everyone can just kind of assume Sackboy is just going to be your 5 to 8 hour co-op game that'll be fun. It'll be fine. I don't think it'll wow anybody.
Don't forget Destruction All-Stars, man.
Oh, Destruction All-Stars. Is
this the $70 game, the $70 PS Plus game? Because that's what it should be, a PS Plus game. That game is going to fucking bomb.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. So moving on past the console launches, not really because it's a day later. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which we can all assume is going to be the number one game of the year.
Yeah.
In terms of sales?
In terms of sales, obviously.
For all intents and purposes, that's a PS5 launch game.
Yes, for sure. The way they've obviously had since I think Call of Duty Ghosts, or even Advanced Warfare, or it might even be a little bit past that, but they've obviously been aligned with PlayStation. Most people are going to be getting their first hands-on with the game this weekend. You can always check out our Twitter, MP1st, SP1st. We're giving away a bunch of codes. You can grab yourself one and try it out for yourself. So we won't get into it. And it's Call of Duty. We kind of know what to expect there. But moving past that, the big one for almost every single person is Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah. Now, Sean, I'm going to go to you, and I'm going to ask you a very specific question about Cyberpunk. And it's going to be really easy. Do you think this will meet people's expectations?
I'm going to say yes and no. I know it sounds like a shitty answer, but I think there's going to be people that are going to love it regardless. They're just going to be so happy to have it. and it's just going to blow them away. And then there's going to be people who are like expecting more than what this game is. As me, I'm hoping it exceeds my expectations because they're not very high. I'm one of the people who thinks Witcher 3 is garbage. I think it's a bad video game that tells a really good story, but as a thing that you control in your hands, it's terrible. But so I'm hoping that Cyberpunk is better than that. Mm-hmm. But that's why I have no hype for that game.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, Tim, I think what a lot of people are not going to realize or not pay attention to is what you're buying for Cyberpunk is the PS4 and Xbox One version. This is not a next-gen game. They've said this multiple times. They've said an update is coming, but the only thing that you're going to get day one when you pop this into your PS5 and your Xbox Series X or S is going to be faster load times and whatever the actual systems allow the game to upgrade to. Do you think that is going to damper people's expectations when they get it, that people need to be reminded that this is an Xbox One PS4 game?
No. I mean, this game has been on the hype train for what, close to 5 years now? I forget when it was announced, but no, this game's always been of this generation. They've been making it for this generation since The Witcher finished off. I don't think that's going to dampen people's hype at all. I do think what?
This game was announced before Witcher even came out.
Oh, that's right, wasn't it? Wow, man, my life's been so crazy this past decade. But no, look, I think a lot of people. I honestly, I think No Man's Sky saved a lot of people from a lot of heartbreak because it's preventing people from perceiving this game as what. For a while there, I thought people were starting to perceive it as, where it's going to be this like second life, where you take on the role of this, just become another person for a few hours every night. Where in reality, it's probably going to be an open world Deus Ex, which I love Deus Ex, so I got no problem with it. The first of those last two, the first one was way better than the second one, but I think I'm excited for it. I like the idea of, roving around in a future car as my decked out tech person. And Cyberpunk's just that the Cyberpunk as a concept, not this specific property, is one of my favorite themes in games and my favorite kind of aesthetics. So I'm excited for it from that perspective. I mean, theme and kind of aesthetic is about 60% of most games for me. So I'm stoked, but I think people are being more measured than that.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely want to say that I think they're reaching a genre that hasn't done or been done extremely well in like a full total RPG sense.
Yeah.
Especially in first person, which I'm very interested in seeing what CD Projekt Red does with first person, because I know as soon as it was announced that it was first person, everyone that really enjoyed The Witcher said, no, stop, what are you doing? But I think they're going to do really well with it. So moving past Cyberpunk.
Which is weird, because I've always thought Gerald's...
I don't want to move on just yet. Well, go ahead and say what you say, but there is something I wanted to say.
I've
always thought...
I just wanted to say, so moving past Cyberpunk, it's pretty dead past that. There's not too much. Obviously, December, you don't want to launch because you want to have enough time.
Well, Gods and Monsters. Oh, what is it called? Phoenix Rising or whatever the fuck
Phoenix
it is
Rising.
Now? Immortal Phoenix
so
Rising.
That's December 3rd, which looks interesting. Is the most that I think I can say about it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll play it because I like Ubisoft's open world games, but I'm not hyped about that game. But what I want to say about Cyberpunk is it's bizarre as fuck to me. Like, I know it got delayed 3 times, but it's still bizarre as fuck to me that they don't have a fucking next-gen patch available, ready to go day one.
Yeah.
Like, it's bizarre as fuck to me. Like, how many games have next-gen patches going on, ready to go on day one?
Oh,
so many of them.
Many.
And, like, they couldn't pull it together to make it, to get it to run, like, they're releasing it on PC.
Yeah.
Like... I'm blown away by these quote unquote the best developers ever not having that game ready to run on next gen, and it's coming later.
Especially, again, it could be some sort of cert process that we don't know about. I don't know. But yeah, it does strike me as weird, especially because it is releasing on PC. These consoles, let's not kid ourselves. The PS5 and Xbox One are they're PCs at this point. They're essentially PCs with a UI that's different. There shouldn't be too much trouble porting it over from a PC, and you get almost the same kind of, like, we're merging in. So just touching on the fact that these are almost PCs, like we just saw today, Black Ops Cold War this weekend, the beta is going to have an FOV slider for the first time in Call of Duty history on console. Like that's how close we are to getting to just PC. Like we're getting those PC options on consoles now that we didn't have before. So you're going to see FOV sliders. You're going to be seeing, I would assume, which almost every game, in my opinion, should have standard, is your graphic fidelity and your frame rate fidelity. If I want to run a game at 4K 60, let me do that. If I would rather choose 1080p 120, let me do that. Those are PC options that should be on almost every console game, I would say, by the end or middle of next year.
I hope so.
Yep.
I guess
we're going to circle around on this, and we'll start with you, Tim. Everything we've heard, what game do you think, and this is a two-part question, what game do you think is obviously your most anticipated, and which one do you have? So there's a difference between most anticipated and one that you have the most confidence in getting Game of the Year or a nomination for Game of the Year. What are those two games?
I think that the public opinion for Cyberpunk is going to be a lot more scattered than we think, because it does seem like a very different thing than most Project Red people are expecting. Or not expecting, they're used to. And whenever something's different, it's always a scattered response, at least initially. I think initial reports, I haven't gotten into any of the betas for Call of Duty yet, but initial reports say that it more so than previous iterations feels a lot very similar to last year's game. Almost like Modern Warfare is going to be like a stopgap where from now on games iterate on that, whereas for a long time they were iterating on Modern Warfare 2 from back in 2008, and then Advanced War later. I think that it's going to have the highest likelihood of being a crowd pleaser.
Yep.
I think that Cyberpunk will sell incredibly well. I'm not saying people will hate it, but I think that people are the experience is a lot more of a sure thing with Cold War than it is with Cyberpunk.
For sure.
And I think that that's going to probably because of the multiplayer aspect, I could see that having a lot longer legs on it than something that's a single player RPG potentially, right?
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people I forgot for the longest time until I got reminded of is Cyberpunk's getting a multiplayer. We don't know when, but it's coming. I have no idea what it's going to be. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's coming. I guess, Sean, same question.
Life.
Yeah, Sean, same question for you. What do you think is going to be what's your most anticipated game, and what do you think has the best shot for getting Game of the Year?
Beyond Watch Dogs, for next gen that I'm going to play on my PS5, it's obviously Demon's Souls. I think Cyberpunk has a very good chance of getting nominated for Game of the Year. Here's the thing, though. What are we talking about when we say Game of the Year? Because are we talking from a Game Awards perspective, or just like going to get the most awards from all these different sites?
I would say most awards, for sure.
Then it's Cyberpunk, because I don't know if Cyberpunk's going to make the cut for the Game Awards because it comes out on the 19th, and usually the cutoff's on the 15th. But I think The Last of Us. I think this year it's not a clear winner. I think this year is going to be a very weird mixed race, like between Ghost, Last of Us, and Cyberpunk. And I think with Ghost and Last of Us being on PS5 or PS4, that's going to split the vote. So I think I think Cyberpunk might wind up coming away with it. It's definitely the most anticipated game across all platforms, like not just platform specific. I think most people are looking forward to that game. That's the game I think is going to walk away with the Game of the Year nominations.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement there. For me personally, again, this is a very bold prediction. I genuinely think if Call of Duty comes out and they have as good, if not better, of a campaign than Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 2, they nail the multiplayer aspect and zombies comes back, I think you've got a triple threat there, which I think obviously with Call of Duty, you think of it every year and you think, oh, it's Call of Duty. But you know what? Modern Warfare's campaign was very impressive.
Oh, man.
Fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, it was an extremely impressive campaign. Say what you want about the multiplayer. Multiplayer opinion is very split. I'm somebody who doesn't like it just because it's a little too campy for my gameplay style with COD. But man, like if you take that Call of Duty name away and it's just a shooter, it's a new shooter, I think that game has a genuine shot of winning Game of the Year solely based on that campaign. It was gritty, it was fast. It took your characters that you'd already loved and brought them into a new light, I guess you could say. And they've actually done a really good job, being a Call of Duty player. They've done a really good job supporting the game throughout the year, and I can appreciate that. My biggest worry with Call of Duty is Activision has got its teeth and its hands right in the pocket of good old Warzone. And I don't know how much development time has gone on to Warzone, and I feel like as soon as Activision noticed how big Warzone was getting, I have a feeling they probably told Treyarch, you need to spend this amount of time getting new Warzone assets. And I know there's a ton of different studios working across Call of Duty, but it's just something for me. Like, I'm not a huge Warzone player, but and you can't deny that it's a hit. It's probably, I would say it is the biggest battle royale right now. Yeah, obviously
Fortnite. Yeah,
Fortnite's there, but man, Fortnite's.
I think it's the second best one for sure. I think Apex is the first, and then.
But yeah, that's going to be our games. The games coming out the rest of the year. Our Game of the Year thoughts. There's a lot left in the year. You spend. I feel like with gaming, and this will be my last point here. Is with gaming. There's two chunks of the year. There's everything from January till start of September. And then it feels like the amount of games that come out between September and December is the same amount that came out in the first, 8 months of the year. And it's crazy. And in the game that really always struck me that did really well, and I feel like a lot of developers and a lot of publishers are now noticing a really nice spot to be for games now is late February, March, April area. Because I feel like the game that really did that well was Dying Light. I don't know if you guys remember. It launched, I think, in the end of January, early February, and it sold phenomenally because there was no competition.
Dying Light was so freaking good. Oh my gosh.
But I think. Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't think there is any time of the year where a game's where they can't release a game now.
Yeah.
Like you have Control, which didn't really sell well, but I don't think that was when it came out. It came out in August. I don't think that was the problem. I think the problem with Control was that 505 didn't fucking market that properly.
No, it was definitely a AA game, and they didn't have the budget for marketing.
And it's a AAA game in a AA budget.
Yeah.
So that's why it got but I still think it's a really good game, but I don't know. I don't think there's any great time. I think this is actually now becoming more and more every year the worst time of year to release a game. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a multiplayer fucking game, EA, don't release it in fucking March. Stop trying to go against Call of Duty. You can't do it. We talked about it earlier in the show. Titanfall was sent to die because they were trying to take as much mind share and audience away from Call of Duty with Battlefield and then Titanfall. They figured, we'll cover two bases and no, you're not going to take people. First of all, you fucked up by making the first Titanfall an Xbox only game. So the people that you want to fucking get, and Call of Duty's massive on PS4 now. So you're not going to get those people just because Titanfall 2 is coming out on PS4. to go away from Call of Duty. Like, no one is going to take anything away from Call of Duty. So just stop fucking trying. You have 9 other months out of the year where you can fucking release your game and have it have a chance of success.
And you know what? I agree with you. And I think EA finally got that message. And the reason why I say that is because I think this is the first year in, I would say 5 or 6 years that we haven't gotten a Star Wars game. We haven't gotten a Star Wars like Battlefront game, and we haven't gotten a Battlefield game. And I think they went back to the drawing board and they are looking at everything, because Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1 really tried to do that Call of Duty like quick, really tight controls, and it didn't work that well in terms of marketing. I feel like they really did bomb it. They're both good games in my opinion. But yeah, like, ending on this, Call of Duty, Madden, Assassin's Creed, they're staples that people will buy every single year because it's one genre. It's that genre. They control that genre. And I feel like when you try to put a Battlefield game so close to Call of Duty, they're both first-person shooters. Nobody cares that it's Battlefield. It's big open spaces. Well, we see Call of Duty making Warzone and making, they have Ground War that supports 80 people. Why? Because they knew Battlefield had screwed up. So they're like, hey, we're going to try and take a piece of your player base. It might not work, but if we take a few people away and say, hey, we have a big game mode with tanks and planes and a ton of people in it, we can take some player base away from your title at the same time of year that you release.
Ground War's a great game mode too.
It sure is.
You did a great job with that.
We are going to end. But before we do that, Sean, why don't you let the people know what you got going on, what's going on this MP1st or SP1st site?
Well, right now I'm waiting for, I think the next thing I have in the docket, well, they asked if, I don't know what I'm going to be reviewing next. I asked if I can get my hands on that G.I. Joe game. I'm a huge G.I. Joe fan from when I was a kid. So I wanted to give that a shot. I don't think it's going to be good, but I want to give it a shot. Other than that, I'll probably be reviewing Watch Dogs. And then I'm also a filmmaker, so I'm editing and putting together a short film that's going to be ready by next week, hopefully. Otherwise, I owe the group $100. And then, you can just catch me talking shit on fanboys on Twitter at N2 and other.
Tim.
Yeah. I'm working on a couple things for the site that are a little too nebulous to announce yet. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to get I don't know if we're going to get review codes yet, but I'm angling to get to review the 9 Monkeys of Shaolin. And I just forgot it. The Cyberpunk taxi game, the real small indie game that's coming out. Where you're like a taxi driver in a cyberpunk city. I forget what it's called now, embarrassingly, but hopefully going to get to review that. I have no Twitter presence because I'm a 27-year-old in an old man's body.
We'll figure you out. We'll figure you out with the online stuff at some point. Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter at Hoopstar245. Obviously, with my last name being Hooper. For the millionth time, I am not good at basketball. I am short. Everyone just assumes. And you're going to probably be able to catch my Star Wars Squadrons review early next week. So it'll probably go up on the 12th. So that'll be Thanksgiving here in Canada. And to any Canadians that are listening, happy Thanksgiving this weekend. Hope you enjoy it. I know.
I was like, what the fuck just happened? I forgot you're from Canada.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Wait, my heart, I was like, Thanksgiving is next week? What the fuck just happened?
Well, that's how you know we have a diverse cast of people going around on MP1st and SP1st. Check out all of our stuff on the website, and we will catch you next time on the Locked On Podcast. See you later.
Hey.